The first time I found my car keys in the freezer, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because that's what you do when something makes no sense and you're too tired to fight it. I told Logan about it that night while he made spaghetti. His special recipe with crushed red pepper flakes and way too much garlic. And he smiled like it was endearing, kissed my forehead, and said, "You've just got a lot on your plate, babe. Don't worry about it." And maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe I would have kept laughing off the misplaced bills, the wrong names on field trip forms, the sharp, panicked way I sometimes forgot what day it was. But then came the night I woke up in my own backyard, barefoot, shivering, clutching a garden trowel with dirt under my fingernails. The porch light was on, and Logan was standing in the doorway, holding a robe, like this was all normal. "Grace," he said softly, "you're not well. Let's get you back inside." And the thing is, I believed him. I truly thought something was breaking inside me. My doctor agreed. Stress, late husband, early onset, cognitive decline. Prescriptions were written, a new therapist was recommended, and Logan took care of everything: appointments, groceries, even the school field trip money I used to triple check as a second grade teacher. I used to be sharp. I used to be the one who remembered. But now I had a man who loved me and a daughter who needed me. Well, not my daughter by blood. Ava was Logan's 16-year-old from his first marriage, and I thought we were slowly becoming something like a family. She barely looked up from her phone most days, but I took her to practice, packed her snacks, remembered her allergies. I tried. I really did. But the distance never shrank, and lately, her silences were starting to feel like secrets. Before we dive into the rest of this story, can you comment where you're watching from? I always love seeing how far these stories travel. Whether you're in Indiana or Indonesia, your support means the world. And hey, if this is your first time here, welcome. Make sure to subscribe for more intense real-life drama, comebacks, and betrayals that'll have you holding your breath till the very end. Let's get back to it. A week before everything finally broke, I opened the fridge and found the milk in the pantry instead. That probably doesn't sound like much, but I hadn't even been the one to buy milk that week. Logan had. And I remembered putting it in the fridge. I remembered. I stood there, staring at it, heart pounding like I'd been caught in a lie I hadn't told. And then something else clicked. My morning coffee. That bitter metallic taste that lingered a little too long. The way Logan always handed me the pill bottle after pouring my drink. The way my calendar notifications started disappearing from my phone. The therapist I never chose. That's when I did something I hadn't done in months. I lied. I told Logan I was feeling better. I told him I didn't need the pills anymore. I told him I wanted to feel like myself again. He nodded with that same warm smile, touched my cheek, and said, "That's a good sign. Progress." But that night, I wrapped the pills in tissue and flushed them. I started writing everything down by hand in a notebook I kept hidden behind a false panel in the back of the laundry room cabinet. I started setting up cameras, cheap ones, hidden in old books and pencil holders. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly, but I knew something was wrong. And deep in my bones, I knew they weren't trying to help me. They were trying to erase me, piece by piece. I just didn't know yet why, or how deep it really went. But I was about to find out, because fate was already knocking, and I was finally awake enough to hear it. I wasn't planning to listen in. Not really. But when I came home early from the teacher workshop in Lexington, an extra half day thanks to a canceled guest speaker, and heard Logan's voice coming from the office, I paused. He wasn't talking on speakerphone, just his usual Bluetooth headset, low voice, pacing behind the door. I was halfway down the hallway when I froze. Not because I recognized what he was saying right away, but because I didn't. Not the tone, not the rhythm. He sounded smug, like someone who had already won a game I didn't know I was playing. "She's completely off balance now," he said. "The memory gaps are getting worse. This morning she asked if it was Tuesday. It's Friday. Ava slipped her the extra dose like we talked about. If we keep this up, she'll start questioning her own shadow." Then a low laugh, a chuckle, like I was a joke. I must have made some noise, my breath catching, a board creaking, because the next thing I heard was, "Hold on." I darted back toward the kitchen and ducked behind the fridge alcove like some ridiculous spy in my own home. A moment later, I heard his chair scrape and the door click open. I held my breath as Logan walked into the kitchen. "Hey," he said casually, as if nothing had shifted, as if the ground beneath my feet hadn't just cracked. "You're home early." I managed to smile. "Yeah, surprise." He kissed my cheek. "How was the training?" "Productive." The word felt like a stone in my throat. I watched his eyes carefully, calm, warm, the kind of eyes that tuck you in, bring you soup when you're sick, help you grieve a husband who passed far too young. But now, they looked like the eyes of a man who knew exactly what poison he was feeding and called it tea. That night, I crept back into the office while Logan showered. The headset was still charging on the dock. I opened the call logs. There it was. Outgoing. 23 minutes. To Dr. C. Hess. I recognized the name. The therapist, Logan, had insisted I try after that incident in the backyard. The one who always seemed more interested in documenting my episodes than helping me cope. Something told me to look deeper. I remembered a password he used once for our joint Amazon Prime account, Ava's middle name, and his late dog's birthday. It worked. His emails were the final punch to the ribs. From Logan Lively to C. Hess, PhD. Subject, progress report. GL. Increased dosage via coffee, as discussed. No resistance yet. She's begun forgetting key items, field trip permissions, medication schedule, dates. Starting to question her own memory. Ava, assisting as needed. Target timeline for incident remains mid-May. Paperwork for temporary commitment nearly complete. I didn't realize I was crying until a drop landed on the keyboard. I pressed my palm over my mouth to muffle the sob. Mid-May. That was less than 2 weeks away. Incident. They were planning one, staging it. Enough to justify locking me away. Likely just long enough for Logan to seize power of attorney. My late husband, Daniel, had left me everything. The house, the savings, the pension, from his work with the Kentucky Department of Transportation. We didn't have kids of our own. That estate was all I had left of him. And now, I saw it clearly. Logan didn't fall in love with a grieving widow. He targeted one. I sat there until the screensaver kicked in, letting the room fade into a soft, electric glow. Then I closed the laptop, cleaned the tears from my face, and walked upstairs like nothing had changed. But everything had. I didn't sleep that night. I watched him breathe, counted every inhale, every exhale. Wondered how many mornings he'd watched me swallow those pills with that same soft smile. I thought about Ava, about the coldness in her eyes when she'd watched me fumble with my keys outside the school gate last week. The way she smirked when I called her best friend by the wrong name. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a misdiagnosis. This was a heist, and I was the vault. The next morning, Logan was extra sweet. He brought me breakfast in bed, French toast, orange slices, a little note that said, "I love the way you still blush when I say, I love you." I stared at the tray, the butter heart melting on the toast, the way the mug handle pointed exactly toward me. "You're good to me," I said. And it was the last honest thing I would say to him for a while. Because now I knew what they were doing. And if I wanted any chance of surviving it, not just legally, but emotionally, I had to stop playing the victim and start playing them. I waited until he left for work, then packed a go bag, just in case. Cash, burner phone, copies of everything I found, the printed emails, my journal, and most importantly, the flash drive. I wasn't ready to run, not yet, but I was ready to see who might believe me. I didn't trust myself to speak the truth out loud, not yet. Words can be stolen, twisted, denied. But proof? That was different. So while Logan kissed my forehead each morning and told me I was doing better, I smiled and swallowed air instead of pills, then spat them into the sink when the bathroom door closed. I waited. I observed. I watched the man I slept beside shift from calculated caretaker to subtle predator, and I filmed everything I could. The cheap camera tucked into the spine of my bookshelf caught Logan checking my pill bottle one morning, frowning when he noticed the count hadn't changed. He didn't say anything, just quietly added 2 more pills the next day. That same footage captured Ava handing me a smoothie that evening. Chocolate banana, your favorite, and hovering by the doorway to make sure I drank it. I didn't, but I made sure the camera caught the exchange. One grainy clip at a time, I was building a wall of truth. But truth doesn't matter unless someone believes you. And right now, I wasn't sure who would. The police? They'd likely see a high schooler and a husband with a medical record of episodes and a licensed therapist's notes. Friends? Most of mine had faded after Daniel passed. I'd become the one who needed space, and space turned into silence. I needed someone smart, someone with legal teeth. And that's when I remembered Milton Calhoun. Milton was Daniel's friend back when they worked together in state planning and policy, an old school civil rights attorney who taught Sunday school and always wore suspenders under his blazer. He had warned me once, quietly, at Daniel's funeral reception, about watching out for people with kind smiles and fast hands. I didn't know what he meant then. I think he did. I called him from a payphone outside the Piggly Wiggly on 4th Street. I used the name Mrs. Winters and told him I had a friend being gaslit in her own home, drugged under the care of a manipulative spouse. Milton didn't hesitate. "Have your friend meet me Tuesday at my office. 2 p.m. No names. Bring paper, not just memory." I showed up early, sat in my car staring at the peeling letters on the door that read Calhoun Legal Advisory, LLC. The receptionist didn't ask questions when I gave a fake name. Milton came out wearing the same brown corduroy jacket I remembered, his cane tapping softly as he walked. "You always did show up early when something mattered," he said, not looking at me as he held the door open to his office. Inside, I told him everything. I showed him the emails, the video clips, the notes. He didn't interrupt once, just tapped his pen against his notepad, brow furrowed. "They're setting you up to be declared mentally incompetent," he said, quietly when I finished. "Once that paperwork clears, your assets, hell, your personhood, is in his hands. It's elder abuse tactics, applied early." "So what do I do?" I asked. "You stay still. For now. You play dumb. You keep collecting. And when the time is right, we use their own blueprint against them." I walked out of his office with a burner phone, a printed list of civil codes to review, and instructions not to call him unless it was urgent. "This kind of plan," he said, "only works if they still think they're smarter than you." Back home, I started keeping a second journal, one I let Logan find. I filled it with half-remembered ramblings, fake panic scribbles, phrases like, "I think I lost time again," and "Ava looked scared today. I must have scared her." One night, I left it open on the coffee table. 10 minutes later, I watched from the top of the stairs as Logan took a photo of the pages and smiled. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Because every move he made thinking I was slipping further was just another brick in the wall I was building to trap him. Ava, though. Ava was harder to read. She still barely looked at me. But I started to notice things. She'd linger outside my door a moment too long after dinner. She started locking her bedroom, something she hadn't done before. One night, she left her iPad on the kitchen counter, screen lit up with texts. I glanced down. "Ava. She's not taking them anymore. I think she's faking." "Unknown. Contact. Then we need to push her harder. Slip something into her tea. She loves that sleepy time crap. Dad's relying on you." Ava came back into the room just as I turned away, acting like I hadn't seen a thing. She grabbed the iPad, eyes narrowing just slightly. We didn't speak. That night, I sat in my bed for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering how a girl whose mother died 3 years ago could be so cold to someone who'd only ever tried to care for her. But then another thought struck me. Maybe she was being manipulated too. Maybe Logan had convinced her I was a threat, that I was unwell, that the memory loss and garden sleepwalking were just the start. And if she believed him, what chance did I have with anyone else? Milton had said to wait, but my gut said we were running out of time. 2 nights later, I made my move. I placed a new mini recorder inside the nightstand, disguised as a battery charger. I left a journal entry open where I claimed I might end it all if I couldn't trust my own memories. And then I waited. Logan found it, read it, called someone. "She's finally cracking," he said. "Might be time to initiate." Initiate. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I would, because the walls were closing in, and I was done waiting. I should have known he'd move faster. I had underestimated how close I was to the edge of the cliff he'd been building behind my back. 3 days after Logan made that call, "She's cracking. It's time to initiate," I got a visit. Not from the police, not from Milton, from a social worker, a woman named Teresa Hill. Tall, polite, wearing a navy pantsuit and a laminated badge that said Crisis Intervention Advocate. She showed up at my classroom during the last 5 minutes of the day, just as I was helping one of my second graders zip up her coat. Teresa smiled, handed me a folded notice, and said in a voice so calm it chilled me, "This isn't disciplinary. but we've received a concern about your ability to function safely at work. There's been a pattern of erratic behavior noted: forgetfulness, lost time, fatigue. We just want to make sure you're okay. I looked at the notice. Anonymous report. Mandatory evaluation. I glanced at my student, a little boy named Darius, who once told me I gave the best listening hugs. He was staring at me with his wide brown eyes, already sensing something wasn't right. Can I schedule this? I asked, my voice even. After school hours? Teresa paused. Unfortunately, the district is asking for immediate leave while we conduct the review. It's standard. You'll still receive pay. We just need to do our due diligence. That was when I knew Logan had escalated the timeline. Whatever incident he was planning, he didn't need it anymore. He was planting red flags and watching them bloom. That night, I told Milton everything. He didn't swear, but his jaw tightened like a man trying not to. They're fast-tracking guardianship, he said. Next move is probably a psychiatric wellness hold. Once that happens, I won't be able to represent you until you're released. And Logan will have control over everything in the interim. So, what do I do? We flip the script. But you need more than just hidden audio. You need someone from their side to break ranks. I stared out the window. Ava walked past it, earbuds in, backpack slung low, barely a glance in my direction. No, she wasn't ready. Maybe she never would be. But someone else was. I remembered a woman named Camille, Logan's sister, the one he barely talked about. She'd shown up once, 8 months ago, for Thanksgiving, drove all the way from Knoxville, stayed for 30 minutes, and left after an icy argument with Logan over something about Mom's house and selling out. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, just chalked it up to siblings with bad blood. But now I wondered, maybe she knew more than I did. I found her through an old holiday card buried in a drawer, her address scrawled next to a faded photo of a Christmas wreath. I wrote her a letter, just a page. No desperation, no ranting, just the truth. I think Logan is trying to have me declared mentally unfit. I have proof. I think you know what he's capable of. Please help me. I signed it with my name and a burner number. Then I mailed it. No return address. A week passed. Nothing. Then, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, a silver truck pulled into the school parking lot where I had gone to clean out my desk. Camille Lively stepped out. Jeans, windbreaker, no makeup, and a look that said she wasn't there for small talk. "Get in," she said. "We're not safe here." We drove 10 minutes to a Kroger lot and parked under an old oak tree. I told her everything, showed her clips, emails, Ava's texts, Logan's phone call recordings. She didn't flinch. When I finished, she pulled a cigarette from her jacket, lit it, and muttered, "Damn, I thought he might pull something low, but this is deep." "Why would he do this?" I asked, almost whispering. "Because he's broke," Camille said bluntly. "The house? In foreclosure 2 years ago. The boat? Already gone. He burned through his trust fund after the divorce. When he found you, recent widow, clean credit, pension, you were a walking reset button." The words made me dizzy. Camille handed me her phone. "I've got emails. From his lawyer, from the bank. If you need corroboration, done. I'll testify. He ruined our mother's life, took her money, lied about care homes, and when she started forgetting things, he made her sign over power of attorney and moved her into a rundown facility. She died 6 months later." I covered my mouth. Why didn't you say anything before? Because no one believed me, she said, flicking ash out the window. And because I thought maybe with you, he'd actually change. Clearly not. We sat in silence. Just the rain hitting the windshield like time catching up. What do we do? I asked. We give him exactly what he wants, Camille said, turning toward me. Let him think you're spiraling, then expose him. I wasn't sure what scared me more, that she said it so calmly, or that I agreed. But before we could act, Logan beat us to it. 2 days later, I came home to find two officers at my front door. Ma'am, one said, we've received a wellness request. Your husband reported that you may be a danger to yourself. That's not true, I said, heart racing. We're going to need to escort you to county medical for a 72-hour evaluation. I looked past them and saw Logan standing just inside the doorway, arms folded, face carved in concerned neutrality. Ava peeked out from behind him. No expression, just watching. Please, I whispered. This is a setup. You can contest it after the hold, the officer said gently. Let's just get through the evaluation first. I felt the world tilt, but then, out of nowhere, Camille's truck pulled up behind them. She jumped out, shouting, Hold on, she has legal counsel. You can't do this without due process. The officers paused. Camille handed them a printed motion from Milton, an emergency injunction filed just hours earlier. It wouldn't stop everything, but it would buy us time. Just enough. As the officer's radio dispatch, Logan's face twitched. He was losing control. And he knew it. So did I. The gala was Logan's idea. Of course it was. A fundraiser for the local charter school foundation. A cause I'd once volunteered for, back when my days were filled with lesson plans and bake sale flyers, instead of legal filings and hidden flash drives. Logan pitched the event as a way to restore normalcy and get Grace back out there. He even said it was good optics, which should have tipped me off sooner. But by then, I already knew what he was doing. This wasn't about healing. It was a press opportunity, a way to publicly present his caring husband persona while accelerating the power of attorney hearing, which was now just 5 days away. So I agreed to go. Smiled as I let Ava pick out a soft blue dress from my closet. Nodded along while Logan rehearsed what he called our narrative. His words, not mine. And when the night came, I let him hold my hand and walk me through the glass doors of the Charleston Civic Center, as if I hadn't seen the message he sent to Dr. Hess just 12 hours earlier. She's nearly ready. The Paranoia Journal sealed it. Make sure the transport order's prepped after the gala. She'll be committed by Monday. Property transfer follows. That message, along with 5 others, now lived safely on a flash drive inside the lining of my clutch purse. But that wasn't the only thing I was carrying. The ballroom was all white linen and fluted champagne, soft jazz under low lighting. Logan shook hands like a politician, thanked donors, laughed just a little too loud. Ava hovered nearby, texting, watching me through sidelong glances. Camille was there too, standing against the wall in a sleek black suit, pretending to sip wine. She gave me a subtle nod. Milton had secured the final injunction, and we were ready. At exactly 8:17 p.m., Logan stepped up to the podium to introduce the keynote speaker. I stood in the back corner near the AV booth, heart pounding like it might give out before I could speak. Camille slipped beside me and whispered, You sure? If I wait any longer, I'll lose everything. I took the mic from the soundboard operator with a steady hand. Logan was mid-sentence, something about honoring educators and mental health support, when my voice crackled through the speakers. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have something to say, something I think you all deserve to hear. The room turned. Dozens of heads swiveled toward me. Logan's face froze, mouth half open, eyes scanning for help. I walked to the stage slowly, deliberately, each step powered by the rage and grief I'd bottled for weeks. The air felt electric. Behind me, Camille gave the signal. The AV technician hit play. Logan's voice filled the ballroom. Clear, confident, cold. She's completely off balance now. Ava slipped her the extra dose like we talked about. If we keep this up, she'll start questioning her own shadow. Gasps rippled through the audience. Logan moved toward me. Grace, what is this? Another clip played. She's not taking them anymore. I think she's faking. Then push harder. Slip something into her tea. She loves that sleepy time crap. Dad's relying on you. Ava's voice. Then the unknown contact. Ava dropped her phone and stepped backward like the floor had fallen out beneath her. I faced Logan. You wanted to commit me, strip me of my rights, take everything Daniel left me and call it caretaking. You made me doubt my own mind. And now, you're going to hear the truth. I turned to the audience. This man planned to have me institutionalized, drugged me, convinced my employer I was unstable, faked journal entries, manipulated his daughter, colluded with a therapist, all to gain control over my estate. But I recorded everything, and I brought witnesses, Camille, Milton, and now, so do all of you. Security moved in, unsure whether to intervene. A woman in the second row began crying. A man pulled out his phone, already recording. The rest of the evidence, I continued, has already been turned over to the DA's office, and the medical board, and the state bar. Logan lunged toward me. You've lost it. You're having an episode. She's been unstable for months. Just ask her doctor. Dr. Hess has been suspended pending investigation. Camille cut in, stepping between us. So has your financial advisor. Oh, and by the way, your email accounts weren't as secure as you thought. The room exploded into chaos. Reporters whispering, guests murmuring, Ava crying in the corner, whispering. He told me it was just to help her. Logan turned to the crowd. This is slander. This is all fabricated. I opened the final clip, his voice, dripping with satisfaction. Once she's in, I'll give it 6 months. Then an accident. They'll think she took her own life. The payout is airtight. Several people gasped out loud. One of the donors stood up and said, I want nothing to do with this. Logan's face lost all color. He turned and walked out of the ballroom. He didn't make it far. A uniformed officer met him at the door with a folded document. Logan Lively? You're under investigation for conspiracy to commit fraud, unlawful administration of controlled substances, and attempted abuse of power of attorney. You'll need to come with us. For the first time in weeks, I breathed. The room burst into murmurs. I turned off the mic, walked off the stage. Camille met me at the back doors. Milton was already calling the press. And me? I wasn't smiling. Not yet. I wasn't triumphant. But I wasn't afraid anymore. And that was enough. The news broke before sunrise. By the time I opened my eyes the next morning, Logan's face was plastered across every local station, accompanied by bold captions like, Charleston man, accused of plotting wife's breakdown, and teacher fights back in twisted commitment scheme. I didn't need to watch it. I already knew the footage by heart. My voice steady at the podium, Logan's sputtering denial, Camille's cold interruption, and the audible gasp when the word accident echoed across the ballroom speakers. Milton called it a rare, clean takedown. I called it survival. Logan was charged with attempted financial exploitation, prescription tampering, conspiracy to commit fraud, and unlawful impersonation of mental health documentation. His attorney tried to push for house arrest, claiming emotional instability triggered by unresolved grief. But the DA's office wasn't buying it. The evidence was too loud, too damning, too public. Dr. Hess was suspended indefinitely. The licensing board launched a formal investigation and issued a public statement, urging anyone with concerns about prior treatments to come forward. By the end of the month, 5 more women had filed complaints, 2 of them elderly, 1 of them postpartum, all with eerily similar stories. He said I needed help. He said my husband thought I was unstable. Camille's testimony proved critical. She handed over bank statements, past complaints from their mother's care facility, and a video from Thanksgiving years ago, where Logan openly joked about how easy it is to get someone declared unfit when you plant the seeds early. Ma, it hadn't sounded sinister then, just flippant. In hindsight, it was a blueprint. But the part that haunted me most wasn't the courtroom or the coverage. It was Ava. She didn't come home after the gala. Camille said she'd gone to stay with her aunt in Georgia for a few weeks. I sent a letter. No accusations. Just the truth. I told her I believed she'd been manipulated, that I knew Logan had used her grief and loyalty as tools, just like he'd done to me. That I forgave her, and I hoped one day she'd forgive herself. I didn't expect a response, but one arrived, scrawled in careful handwriting on notebook paper. I didn't know it would go that far. I just thought, he wanted to help you. I didn't know about the pills or the accident part. I'm sorry. I don't think I can come back right now, but thank you for not hating me. That was enough. The court granted a permanent injunction, protecting my medical autonomy and freezing all assets tied to Logan's name. The property transfers he'd drafted, voided. The trust fund Daniel left me, intact. My school district quietly reinstated me, but I declined. I couldn't walk back into that classroom pretending nothing had changed. I wasn't the same Grace, and I didn't want to be. Camille offered me a room at her place while I got back on my feet, but I needed space. Instead, I moved into a little 2-bedroom off Main Street with tall windows and a creaky old porch that overlooked the community garden. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The deed had only my name. Milton dropped by one evening with 2 mason jars of lemonade and said, "You know, some people go through things like this and never recover. You? You walked out with your spine straighter." I didn't feel straight. I felt hollow. I told him that. "That's part of the healing," he said. "The ache tells you what still matters." I spent weeks in that apartment unlearning the habits Logan taught me. I stopped triple-checking the pill bottles. I started trusting my memories again, slowly, piece by piece. I planted lavender in the window boxes, wrote in journals that were only for me. I deleted the fake one he used to read. One afternoon, I got a letter from the Charleston Women's Legal Foundation asking me to speak at a panel for psychological abuse survivors. I almost said no. Then I looked at the notebook where I'd once scribbled down the phrase, Ava looked scared today. I must have scared her, just to bait him. And I realized my words mattered, even the ones I never meant. So I said yes. The panel was quiet, intimate, 10 women, 1 man, a moderator. We weren't there for applause, just recognition. I listened to stories that felt like mirrors, some worse, some eerily parallel. I told mine. I didn't cry. Not until afterward, when a woman with silver hair and shaking hands took mine and said, "You made me feel like I wasn't crazy." That night, I walked home under the soft orange glow of streetlights and past the tree where Logan used to pick me up after therapy. I stopped, closed my eyes, and I let it go. Not for him, not for Ava, for me. Because I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was rebuilding. Logan pled guilty to a reduced sentence in exchange for a full confession and a list of previous cases where he admitted to helping others exploit vulnerable partners or relatives. Camille called it a small win in a rotten system. Milton said it was the crack that would let sunlight in. I didn't watch the sentencing. I went to the community garden that morning and planted tomatoes. The woman who worked the plot beside me, Rita, asked what I was going to grow next. I said, "Something that takes time." She smiled and said, "Aren't we all?" A year passed, quietly, without drama. No court dates, no therapy mandates, no false kindnesses handed to me in coffee mugs laced with powder. Just days, one after the other. Peace doesn't arrive like a parade. It comes like soft rain, unnoticed at first, then everywhere. I still woke up some mornings and checked the doorknob twice, made sure my phone was where I left it, glanced in my tea to make sure nothing shimmered unnaturally. But those rituals faded, like bruises. In time, I started sleeping through the night again. I stopped flinching when I heard Logan's name in passing. I even drove by the courthouse once, windows down, sun on my face, and didn't feel like I was being dragged back into a nightmare. That's how I knew I was healing. Not because everything was fixed, but because the past no longer dictated my pulse. The Charleston Women's Legal Foundation invited me back, not just for a panel this time, but to help start a community resource group for survivors of psychological manipulation and coerced control. I said yes before they finished the sentence. We called it Echo Light, because abuse like this doesn't shout, it whispers and it echoes long after the abuser is gone. The first support circle had 5 women, all from different walks of life. One had been gaslit by her business partner, another by her brother. One woman hadn't left her home in months because her adult son insisted she wasn't safe outside. She whispered when she spoke. I listened. I taught them what I'd learned the hard way, that you're not crazy just because someone convinces you you are. That love, real love, doesn't make you doubt your reality or forget who you are. That silence can be survival, but truth is how you escape. We cried, we laughed, we wrote letters to our former selves. One evening after a meeting, Camille met me at the diner off Route 9, the same one she used to take Ava to on weekends, back when things felt simpler. She stirred her coffee slowly and said, "You ever think about what your life would have been like if Logan hadn't found you?" I nodded. All the time. "Would you change anything?" I paused. Parts of it, yes, but not what I became because of it. She looked at me for a long time, then raised her cup. To becoming. I clinked mine against hers. Ava called that spring. Said she was applying to a social work program in Georgia. Said she wanted to help kids like her, kids who didn't know what manipulation looked like until it was too late. I'm still figuring it out, she admitted, but I'm trying. Trying is enough, I said. And I meant it. When summer came, I planted a small fig tree behind my apartment building, near the edge of the community garden. The landlord didn't mind. As long as you water it, he said with a shrug. I did. Every morning, even when it didn't seem to grow. I tied a single ribbon around its base, navy blue, Daniel's favorite color. I still thought about him, not in grief anymore, but in memory. I wondered what he'd say if he saw me now. Probably something quiet and proud like, "That's my girl." I didn't rebuild my life the way people expected. I didn't remarry, didn't move states or take up skydiving or start an Etsy candle shop. I rebuilt it the way I needed, slow, simple, rooted. I took a part-time job at the public library helping adults prepare for the GED. I loved it. One student, a woman named Gloria, told me, "You're the first person who talks to me like I'm not broken." I told her, "That's because you're not." That's the thing no one tells you about surviving emotional abuse. It doesn't end with justice or court victories or exposés. It ends with reclaiming your voice day by day, conversation by conversation. You have to relearn how to trust yourself, how to believe your gut, how to be without apology. Logan's name stopped trending after 6 weeks. By then, the next scandal had taken its place. But Echo Light kept growing. We started an anonymous hotline. A small grant came through. We partnered with a shelter. One woman left her husband after hearing my story on a podcast. Another filed charges against her employer. The work wasn't glamorous, but it mattered. One afternoon, I stood outside the courthouse for an awareness walk. Someone passed me a microphone. I hesitated at first. Then I said this. They tried to silence us with shame. They told us we were paranoid, overdramatic, unstable. But here's the truth. They were just afraid of what would happen when we realized we weren't alone. So, we're speaking now. For every woman who's ever been made to feel like she's losing her mind. For every survivor who thought they were the only one. We are your echo. And we are your light. The crowd clapped, but the moment that meant the most came later, when a young woman with tear-brimmed eyes approached me and whispered, "I thought I was crazy until you told your story." I hugged her, tight. And as we stood there, two strangers bound by shared survival, I realized I was no longer afraid of being remembered for what happened to me. I wanted to be remembered for what I did with it.